Have you ever felt like money just doesn't seem to flow naturally in your life? Maybe you're working really hard, but somehow you never really thrive financially. Or perhaps you struggle to find clients. Maybe you undercharge. Maybe you keep attracting stressful jobs. Or maybe you give too much away. Perhaps no matter how much effort you put in, money always seems to arrive with struggle, worry, or sacrifice. If that sounds familiar, I truly understand. Because for most of my own life, I experienced many of those patterns myself. And what surprised me most was that the problem wasn't at all a lack of hard work. Often the real obstacles were emotional, spiritual, and karmic even. Feelings like guilt, people-pleasing, fear of charging, fear of change, the belief that life has to be hard, or unconscious family stories about money that we don't even realize we're carrying. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about today. And equally important, what can we do to shift this entirely? Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm a Bach Flower practitioner and vibrational healer. And on this channel, we explore emotional healing, personal growth, vibrational healing, and of course, the deeper side of Bach Flower Remedies. And if you'd like to learn how to choose remedies in a deeper and more personal way, well, I'd love to invite you to my free live masterclass, linked below in the pinned comment or in the description. You'll leave with insight, tools, and the first real step forward in your healing process, including the recipe for your first personal remedy blend. Now let's talk about wealth, abundance, and money in a beautiful way. Have you ever wondered whether there are Bach Flower remedies for abundance, prosperity, or wealth? People ask me this question surprisingly often. Which remedy attracts money? Or which flower remedy helps with abundance? Is there a remedy for financial success? And the answer might surprise you. It is no. There is no Bach Flower remedy for money. Dr. Bach never created a remedy for wealth itself because money is not an emotion. Money is not a personality type. Money is not a state of imbalance. But what Bach Flower remedies can help with are the emotional patterns that sometimes stand in between us and our ability to receive, to create, to ask, to trust, and to thrive. Because very often financial struggles are not only financial, most of the time they are emotional. Sometimes they're even spiritual. Sometimes they are inherited. And sometimes we unknowingly sabotage the very things we say we want. Not because we are lazy, not because we are incapable, but because another part of us believes it isn't safe. I don't deserve it. I must suffer first. If I succeed, others will judge me. If I charge properly, people won't love me. And if those beliefs remain unconscious, we may keep repeating the same patterns over and over again. And this is why I don't believe Bach Flower remedies attract money. I believe that they remove some of the inner obstacles that prevent us from receiving what life may already be trying to give us. Now that sounds kind of meh, but Bach Flower remedies are the reason I went from poor to where I am right now. And I mean poor as in not having a real income for about 5 years of my life. So I really don't say that lightly. Now let's just look at some examples. Pine is a really good remedy for receiving. Pine is for the people who say, I don't deserve it. Or if you unconsciously believe that. So pine is probably one of the biggest remedies I consider when struggling with receiving. Pine people often carry guilt, not because they have done something terrible, but because guilt has become their normal state. They apologize too much. Maybe they feel responsible for everyone, or they believe they should always do more. And because of this, receiving can feel extremely uncomfortable. They may unconsciously think, others need it more than I do, or, oh, I haven't earned this yet. I shouldn't charge so much, or who am I to ask for that? And so abundance becomes simply blocked, not because opportunities are absent, but because guilt just closes the door. And pine helps restore healthy self-worth. It reminds us, I do not have to suffer to deserve good things. The next one is rock water. Life must be hard. So this one I see very often in spiritual people. Rock water individuals tend to place impossible standards upon themselves. They are disciplined, responsible, conscientious, but they often believe that struggle is noble, that pleasure must be earned, that ease is suspicious. Money somehow corrupts spirituality, and they may secretly admire sacrifice and unconsciously reject abundance because suffering has become part of their identity. But nature itself is abundant. The sun does not apologize for shining. A flower does not feel guilty for blooming. Rock water teaches us that life does not always have to be hard, that success and spirituality are not enemies, and that ease is not the same thing as laziness. Next, Centaury. I give everything away. Centaury people are beautiful souls, kind, helpful, generous, sensitive, but many of them struggle with boundaries. They overgive, undercharge, say yes when they may no. They become everyone's support system while neglecting themselves. And then they wonder, why are they exhausted and why am I financially struggling? The problem is not generosity. The problem is self-abandonment, because when giving comes from fear of rejection rather than genuine love, it becomes very draining. And Centaury reminds us, I am allowed to value my time. I am allowed to receive. I do not become selfish when I stop abandoning myself. Next one, Agrimony. Everything is fine, is what Agrimony says. So Agrimony is very fascinating because Agrimony people often hide their worries. They smile, they joke, they say everything is fine. But underneath there may be anxiety, insecurity, fear, or inner suffering. And sometimes they avoid looking honesty at their financial situation, not because they are irresponsible, but because facing reality feels very uncomfortable. So they distract themselves, stay busy, keep smiling, and hope things will somehow improve on their own. Agrimony invites honesty, not harshness, not self-judgment, just truth. Because healing can only begin where truth is allowed. And there is another aspect of agrimony that I think is perhaps even more important. Agrimony is the remedy for the person who says, I'm fine, when they are not fine. It is one of the remedies we consider when emotions are hidden, pushed away, covered up, and if we constantly repress our emotions, our desires, and our own needs, well then first of all, we may not even know what we truly want. And even when we do know, well, we immediately dismiss those desires. We repress them or tell ourselves that they're selfish, unrealistic, or unimportant. So it's not surprising that this pattern can affect our sense of well-being, our relationships, and sometimes obviously also our financial life. Because receiving does not only apply to money, it applies to love, to support, to appreciation, to joy, to rest, to recognition. But someone in an agrimony state tends to block all of that. In many ways, the ability to receive is one of the great themes of life. And if a part of us has learned to suppress our needs, ignore our feelings, or always present a smiling face to the world, then that same pattern may unconsciously limit our ability to receive good things as well. Agrimony gently invites us back into honesty, not harsh honesty, just the kind of honesty that says, what do I truly feel? What do I truly need? And even, what do I truly want? Because sometimes abundance begins with giving ourselves permission to acknowledge that in the first place. Let's look at Walnut. Walnut is for breaking old family stories. So perhaps my favorite remedy in this area is still Walnut, because many of us inherit stories about money. Maybe you grew up hearing, oh, we can't afford that, and rich people are selfish, people like us don't become successful, money causes problems, and so on. And perhaps those beliefs belonged to your parents or to your grandparents or generations before them. And Walnut helps us step out of those inherited patterns, not with anger, not with rejection, but with freedom. It allows us to honor where we come from without being imprisoned by it, because loyalty to old suffering is not love, and creating a different future does not betray your family. And another remedy I would consider here also is Chestnut Bud, which is also a pattern and a habit breaker. Chestnut Bud is a remedy we often think of when someone keeps repeating the exact same experiences over and over and over again without truly understanding why. Perhaps you keep attracting the same kind of stressful jobs, perhaps you repeatedly undercharge, perhaps you give too much, burn out, promise yourself that next time things will be different, and then somehow you find yourself back in exactly the same situation. Not because you are incapable, not because you are lazy, but because sometimes we just cannot change a pattern until we truly see the pattern. And so Chestnut Bud helps us learn from our experiences. It brings awareness, helps us pause and ask, hey, why do I keep ending up here again? What am I not seeing? What lesson is life trying to teach me? Because sometimes abundance is not about doing more. Sometimes it is about finally recognizing the cycle we have been unconsciously repeating. And once we see the pattern clearly, we are no longer condemned to relive it. So are there Bach Flower remedies for wealth? Not exactly, but there are remedies for guilt, for self-sacrifice, for fear, for rigidity, for inherited beliefs. And sometimes when those inner blocks begin to soften, something very beautiful happens. We stop fighting life. We stop sabotaging ourselves. We stop believing that we have to earn our worth through suffering. And perhaps abundance was never about attracting something from outside. Perhaps abundance begins when we remove what has been standing in the way all along. Because nature is abundant. And perhaps you don't remember it, but you were created to flourish too. Let me know in the comments what belief about money did you grow up with. And if you like to learn how to choose Bach Flower remedies for yourself, to get yourself out of a hot mess and into your own healing journey, I have a free live class link below. You'll leave with insights, tools, and answers to your personal path. If you like this video, you can also support me for free by looking at another video. Or you can send this to someone who might really need to hear this. That's totally free and very supportive. Thank you so much for watching. I loved making this video, and I'll see you in the next one.